welcome each and every one of you, the sisters from around the world, to today's session of our forum, which is learning the steps of cash flow management for women having a micro business or just women who are in business. And it is my honor and privilege to personally introduce to you the lovely lady. Her name is Isabelle Galle, and she is based in UK, and I am going to introduce her to you. So before I do that, I also want to just unmute her so you will recognize this special lady, our spotlight speaker today. Hi, Isabelle. Would you like to just say hi to everybody before I introduce you?
Yes. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, every sister.
Okay, so that's Isabelle, and let me introduce you. So about Isabelle, her experience with Africa spans over a period of 10 years between 1978 to 2000 in staggered stages. She first arrived in Togo, West Africa at the age of 15 with her parents, where she attended a French school. And then fast forward, she went to France subsequently, but Africa was always at the back of her mind. So after her graduation, guess what? She returns to Togo at the age of 20, where she got employed as an assistant marketing manager at the age of 20 for a Japanese multinational company, which was also the only multinational Japanese company operating in West Africa at that time. And for 4 years, Isabelle traveled all over West and Central Africa, mostly dealing with Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Ghana, the Ivory Coast, Senegal, the Gambia, Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, Guinea, Liberia, Mauritania. I mean, she's been so passionately involved with Africa. So Africa really is a second home for her. And she's been having a lot of vested interest in Africa. And during her last stay in West Africa, she got involved as the Secretary General of the Coffee and Cocoa Farmers Association to promote the development of pepper plantations within their farmlands. And she negotiated a grant of 5,000 euros to help farmers with this project, particularly for cleaning of the soils and purchases of pepper plants. And through her actions, Isabelle realized that women were the motor for development and education in rural areas, because they were those concerned by feeding and educating their children. They were those trying to ensure that projects were being followed up. And Isabelle also went on to help groups of women involved in shea butter extraction to open cooperatives and saving accounts with local building societies in an attempt to stop their husbands from taking all the monies. And to fundraise for all her associations, she's participated in local fairs, selling items, collections from expat communities. And so, you know, she's got a very passionate bio, but in the interest of time, what I gave you was just, you know, just a fraction of the amazing things that this lady has been doing so passionately and so intentionally because of, you know, the love she has to help women. And she recognizes that women are the locomotive. And those were her very words. And where she is today, she set up her business, which is the Perfumery Art School, in 2013. And the mission was to promote homegrown perfumers, where local people would use local plants and raw materials to create local perfumes related to culture of their own country. So there again, you see the empowerment model coming in how she thinks. So Isabelle, it is my honor. I am absolutely honored to have somebody, a lady like you, who's so sincere and intentional in your work for women empowerment. And I thank you and I celebrate you today. And with that, ladies, and we have one gentleman, it's my honor to invite Isabelle, our spotlight speaker for today, to take it away. Yes, over to you, Isabelle. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Senela. It was really nice. Okay, well, let me, oh, have you gone? Oh, let me tell you a bit about my background. I mean, of course, Senela did introduce me about my background in Africa. Uh, the reason why I wanted to do this session today with Women Empowered Global is because in my setup of business, I realized a lot of things. I mean, you think that you want to set up a business, it's great, you know, you're passionate, but suddenly you realize that all the nitty-gritty is not working. So you do need to have a very cool head and, you know, stop and say, okay, where do I start and where do I go? And I found that this is really helpful, particularly when you start a business, okay? And I'm mainly going to talk about, let me remove my glasses, to talk about starting a small business, a startup, but of course we never know where a business is going to go. And you will realize that there are milestones in your business to go through. You have decided to start a small business, great. I mean, this is really a great thing for the world because we need people, entrepreneurs in this world. Directly or indirectly, we create jobs. We don't realize it maybe. We don't need to have employees. In actual fact, by using suppliers and other people, outsourcing people, services, you do create jobs. So you are important. You have decided to start your small business. Whether you are going to sell tomatoes on the market stall or a retail product in a retail shop, one thing comes important, it's the cash flow. Cash flow is a pillar. You can have the best idea in the world, you know, if you don't have the cash flow, your business will not survive. So before I start talking about the cash flow, let's start from A, you know, and then go to Z. Because it's important, of course, to know your cash flow, but what is important also when you start your business is your vision. So you need, of course, to have what we call a business plan or a roadmap. You don't need to be, you know, an academic to write a business plan or a roadmap. You need to know where you are going. The questions you need to ask yourself are, why do I want to start a business? What am I going to sell? Where? How? And to whom, obviously. So in other terms, you need to know what are your objectives, how you are going to work towards these objectives, and how you are going to work towards achieving them. Have you got an audience? Have you got clients? Or are you going to do some market research to find out whether you have clients? You need to think about the time frame in a realistic manner, okay? One thing you learn when you start a business and with experience is that time needs to be your friend and not your enemy, okay? So don't think that if you start today, in 2 years' time, you will be at the top. No, it's going to take a bit longer than that, right? So once you are clear about your business objectives, your business will, of course, go through milestones. And the first milestone, and the more difficult one, is, of course, funding. Funding your initial stock, whether it's a stock of tomatoes or a stock of lipsticks. You know, you have to think that your business is like your child. You know, you can't ask a child to grow from 1 year to 10 years old without going through various stages of growth. So funding is your one, is, you know, you are being born, it's your birth, right? So very important thing, where are you going to find funding? Now, let me tell you a bit about my perfumery art school, because I started with zero, right? In 2013. When I say zero, I was working, okay, and I used a bit of my personal wages to actually start financing my business. But then I also had to go to a bank because I needed stock. And one of the reasons why my bank gave me the loan immediately is because I had a very clear roadmap about my objectives. I knew my market and I knew where I wanted to go. So I got my loan within 1 day, right? And it helped me to buy my stock, my initial stock. So that was, of course, great, but it doesn't always work like that, unfortunately. Not every bank is going to listen to you or believe in your project. I totally know that, you know. So you have got to find and identify your sources of funding. The first port of call are your friends and your family, obviously, because they are most likely to adhere to your project and try to support you. So what you start doing is you start to crowd fund from your friends and family members. Either they will give you the funds as a gift, or you can offer them to refund them at a later stage. Other possibilities are that you can, of course, offer them shares in your company if you're setting up a company. Of course, the good thing about friends and family is that even if you refund, they will not ask you to pay interest, because interest can actually affect your cash flow. So most of the time, they will be also your first clients. So it's good because they believe in your ability to succeed, they will be the first one to buy your product. So you have your starting base for selling your products. You have to think of it as if it was a piggy bank, okay? When you were a child, you were having a piggy bank to buy your sweets. Obviously, you were probably not trading your sweets, but maybe you were against other goodies. Your friends and family will help you start this piggy bank if you have no other options, right? Now, if you are in Africa or in developing countries, very often you will find that there are some non-profit institutions which might lend you money through microloans. They usually, these microloans are usually targeted at women or groups of women in mainly rural communities, and loans are repaid in small installments. So that can be very helpful, and normally in Africa and other developing countries, and even in Europe or Western countries, you can find such institutions to help you start, okay? It's not big, but you know, it's a start. Now, it is possible that you can't borrow money, nor from a bank, from families and friends, or from a microloan institution. In that case, well, you have got maybe to start negotiating a stock of products with a supplier. Obviously, the supplier will need to trust you. So it's a relationship based on trust. Let's say, for example, that you are planning to sell second-hand clothes. You can negotiate with a clothing distributor or an importer to get maybe $100 worth of stock for a period of 1 to 3 months. So you buy, or he gives you $100 of stock. Of course, he trusts you. He knows that you're not going to run away with the stock. He knows that you want to get into business. So you can resell this stock for $200. Now, what it means is that you have $100 to reinvest in your own stock. You pay $100 to your suppliers, okay, and you are now buying $200 worth of products because he has trusted you, so he's going to give you a bit more, right? So that's a good way to actually start your cash flow, okay? So that was for funding, obviously, but the main purpose of our forum today and presentation is actually about cash flow. Cash flow, you know, we think that, well, it's easy, but in fact, it's not. We need to understand that the cash flow is the lifeblood of your business, okay? If you run out of cash, well, your business will face difficulties and will not be sustainable. It's that simple. What is cash flow? Well, cash flow is the cash inflow, which is generated by your sales, but it's also the cash outflows, which correspond to your expenses. Whether you use actual cash or bank transfers, these in and out movements represent your business footprint. Your uncle might have given you $1,000 lump sum to start with. This is great, but this is not cash flow. This is capital investment in cash. It's different to cash flow. This lump sum will run out quickly because of your startup cost. Now, to understand cash flow, you need to understand the difference between turnover and profit. Turnover is the amount of sales that you have generated. Okay, so if we refer back to our example of buying and reselling clothes, you have purchased, let's say, for $100 worth of clothes that you resell at, let's say, $250. Now, the turnover between the two is $150. Okay, so $100 purchase, $250 resell. Your turnover is $350. Okay. Now it would be easy to spend these $350, but you need to remember that you have to pay your supplier for his stock, and you also have running costs. Running costs are transport to the place of sales, telephone, electricity, water costs, rental costs. Okay, let's assume that your fixed expenses are $350. These are fixed costs. In total, between what your supplier and between what you owe your supplier and your running cost, you need about $450. So let's start again. You have purchased for $150 worth of clothes. You resell them at $450. Okay, so your turnover is $450. Okay. Now, if you spend all this money, you are going to run out of cash. Okay, so you might have lost $50 between your running cost and your stock payments. Okay, so that means something is wrong with your planning, and you are now faced with a cash flow issue. Your sales price does not reflect your business expenses, so you need to review your sales price. Okay, so let me show you the milestone to cash flow, so that you understand black on white. Okay, the best way to plan your cash flow is to forecast correctly. Okay, the cash flow is linked to your sales targets. How many products do you need to sell each month, and at what price, in order to be able to pay your running cost on a monthly basis? Okay. In order to set up the appropriate sales target, you need to calculate your running expenses and calculate the break-even ratio. So it works like this. Okay. Let's say that your product price is $10. That's the price you are going to sell at, $10. Okay. Your running costs, what we call fixed costs, are $350. And your variable cost, which is the price of your unit, cost per unit, is $5. Okay? So you have assessed here that you are going to sell at 10. Okay? Now, we need to find out whether with that we are going to recover our cost, the fixed cost, without making any profit. Okay? So the way you are going to calculate, okay, is you are going to take your fixed cost of 350, you divide by your selling price, which is 10, okay, and you deduct your variable cost, which are 5, okay. So based on this first model here, we need to sell 30 units. Okay, if you sell at $10, you will need to sell 30 units in order to recuperate your cost without any profit, your fixed cost. Okay, now whether that works or not, we are going to see now. Okay, calculating the break-even ratio is simple and is actually the logical way to measure how realistic you are. You need to ask yourself the question, can I sell 30 units? What happens if you don't sell 30 units and you are only going to sell 15 units? Here will be the results. Okay, so your receipts will be 15 multiplied by $10. Okay, you are not selling 30 units now, you are selling only 15. So your receipts will be 15 multiplied by 10, which is 150. Okay, your variable cost, which is the cost per unit of your stock, is 15 multiplied by $5 here. Okay, 15 multiplied by $5, so it's $75. Your fixed costs are still the same, $350. Okay, so if you are going to sell at $10, we know that you need 30 units to recoup your cost without profit. If you only sell 15 units, you have a loss of $275. Oops. Oops, oops. What do you do then? Okay. Now, you are in trouble because something has been wrong in your planning. Okay. So you are going to have to review something, right? First of all, maybe you have been too optimistic with your sales forecast. Maybe you thought you could sell 30 units, but in actual fact, you end up only selling 15 units. So your sales forecast is incorrect, is wrong. You need to review it. Okay? So then maybe the price you're charging is not good enough, is too low. Yeah? So you have several ways here to review. First of all, you review your price. Second of all, you have to review your fixed costs. Maybe your fixed costs are too much. $350 in our example are too much. You might have to renegotiate the price with your supplier. Okay? Maybe $5 is too much. And you have to work towards meeting your break-even ratio through increasing your footfall in order to increase your sales potential. So that means you need to drag more clients, okay? So let's start with number one. Review the price that you are charging, okay? That means you need to charge a higher price. Here, you are charging $10. Now, you might think, oh, well, $10 is not enough, so let's try at $20. It's great, but question is, can you sell at $20 a unit? Because if your competition offers the same quality with a price which rank between $10 and $15, what is going to make your client buy at $20? So that's the question, right? It's okay to increase your price, but you need to justify it, okay? The second possibility is to reconsider your fixed and variable costs, okay? This is usually where the issue will be, okay? Fixed and variable cost. You have too many costs in order to cover all this, okay? So you need to go back to the drawing board because your business model here is not economically viable, okay? So that's what you need to do. Go back to your roadmap, okay? So either your fixed cost or your variable cost per unit are too high. So let's assume that you manage to reduce your fixed cost down to $250, and you are going now to sell at $20 per unit. Okay? So here is what happens. Okay, so we have the receipts are still 15 units, but this time at $20. Okay, so your receipts are actually $300 here. Okay. Now, variable costs, they are still $5. Okay, multiplied by 15, 75. So the variable costs here have not changed. I hope you all see the paper here. Fixed cost, we have reduced them by 100. So there are 250. So you might have reduced on something. I don't know, maybe your electricity cost, your transport charges, something has got to be reduced. So you have managed to reduce them at $250. Okay? But if you look at it by doing and reviewing your roadmap this way, you still have a loss of $25 here. Okay? So again, you need to go back to the drawing board. Okay? And what is the last option here? Well, is to renegotiate your price with your supplier. Your supplier charges you too much per unit. Okay? He needs to believe that you are able to sell more units in the medium to long term. Okay? So you need to have this trust relationship with your supplier. So either he's going to give you a lower price, or you are going to need to change your supplier. Okay? So let's say now that your supplier accepts that your cost per unit is going to be $3 instead of $5. Okay? So we still are basing ourselves on the fact that you had planned to sell 30 units, but you only actually sell 15 units. Okay? So you still have 15 units of receipts sold at $20. So it's 300. Okay, here, 300. Then variable cost, well, they have gone down to $45 because you have renegotiated the price per unit from $5 to $3. Okay, so now your variable cost or cost per unit have gone down to $45. Your fixed cost, you have reduced them previously, you remember, from 350 to 250. So they are still 250. And now, by doing that, with 15 units only, you have a profit of $5. Okay? So it's a bit of a gymnastic, and it shows you that you need to visualize exactly how you are going to go about your business in order to be able to manage your cash flow. The break-even calculation that I've just showed you, and Senela and I have said that we will send you this presentation black on white, okay, is the best and most logical way for you to calculate your cash flow forecast and know where you are going, okay? If you don't do that, because it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to sell at $20, but do you know you are going to be able to sell at $20? Yeah, maybe you think you can, but have you tested the market to find out whether you can actually sell at $20? Okay, so you need to go through these steps in your roadmap in order to know how you are going to generate your money. Now, this example that I gave you is based on the fact that you had an idea that you were going to sell 30 units, but you didn't sell 30 units. So you ended up with a loss, okay, as showed on this piece here, right? Now, we have decided that because you couldn't sell 30 units, we have decided that we would need to recalculate everything based on the fact that you had only sold 15 units, okay? So now, this was basically my summary of how to manage your cash flow in a very simple way without being too academic about it and with concrete examples. And now I'm ready to listen to all your questions and answer to you. I realize that I messed up a bit with the first figures, but don't worry, you will receive the presentation and it will be very clear. And I tell you one thing, if you do that, your cash flow never becomes an issue, okay? You can review your roadmap midway, okay? And because you become more and more known, so you can review a lot of things. Whenever you want to increase your price, your sales price, you need to justify it. You know, you can't suddenly decide, oh, I'm going to increase my sales price without any justification. So the justification can be that maybe you have improved the product packaging, maybe you have a better quality, you know, so that you can compete with your other competitors. Okay, so I'm listening to your questions now. I think it's in the chat, Senela. I mean, I'm not, let me see,
Yes,
because I see there are plenty of, yeah.
Thank you so much. So I am going to now step in to moderate the Q&A. So
yeah, okay.
All our participants today who are online right now for the live workshop.